Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Startup Stories. Today we have two inspiring guests with us. It's Nicholas Hänny, the co-founder of NIKIN, a Swiss sustainable clothing company, and Céline Spillmann of CASUS, a legal tech startup. My name is Natalie, and my colleague Elian and myself, we have the pleasure of guiding you through today's event. This event is organized by Startup Campus together with the University of Zurich.
And with this, I would give the word to our first startup speaker, Nicholas Hänny from NIKIN.
Perfect. So then it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. Just for short, I'm Nicholas. I'm the co-founder and CEO of NIKIN, a Swiss clothing brand. And today I'm going to talk for very, very short about what NIKIN is, and then a little bit about my way into entrepreneurship, what motivates me, and I'm going to share my biggest learnings on my way and hope that there's some value for some of you in here. So just for short, NIKIN is a clothing brand with a simple concept. We plant a tree for every product sold. And it's not only about planting trees, it's also about actually making sustainable fashion affordable. And that's why we try to get a good compromise between price and sustainability. And by that simple concept, like you already know, we've planted over 1 million trees. So we sold over 1 million products. But what makes me actually the most proud is the fact that it's a bootstrap startup. We just started with 5,000 francs 4 years ago. I founded it together with Robin, a childhood friend, and ever since, never had investors, never had bank loans, and got this nice number of 1 million. So that's something that makes me proud. But how did I get into entrepreneurship? It actually started during high school. I was part of Young Enterprise Switzerland. It's a school project where you can build up something. I actually founded a mini brand that was selling a hand sanitizer that smells good during the swine flu time. Worked pretty well, but we didn't continue in it. But during my studies, I actually designed a gym bag that was a bit more practical than all the other gym bags that people were wearing at that time. It was called NIKIN. And I ordered 1,000 pieces of it, sold maybe 500. It was semi-successful, but it actually brought me to having a beer together with Robin in the end of 2016. And while having the beer, we actually had the idea to plant the product or plant the tree for the products that we sell, and then found the idea of NIKIN. And from the beer to the first product launch, it was like 5 weeks. So we just said, let's just do it, let's just try it. And we started with 60 products actually. But what made me, or why I'm motivated to be an entrepreneur? Here I want to tell you 3 things. First thing is it's definitely not money. Honestly, I earn way less money than most of my ex-study colleagues, and it was never really the idea to do something just to have an exit and earn money. So that's not part of it, but what is part of it is that the motivation to work on your own thing or own baby is just so crazy much higher than working at a job. I had a job before, was super happy, but now I'm way more happy. And besides that, the learning curve you have, or what you learn, is insane. I really underestimated that. I learned so much during that time that I personally believe would have never learned in any other job. So that's kind of what keeps me going and what motivates me. Now, let me share my biggest learnings on the way. Some of these learnings might seem super simple or might seem also subjective, but that's what I, from myself, personally learned, and I'd love to share that with you. So the first one is that it's not about the idea, that it's about the implementation. And I think this is super important because I hear from many potential founders in Switzerland that they say that they would like to start something, but they say they don't have the perfect idea. And then on the other hand, there's the people that have, in their opinion, the perfect idea, but write a 100 or 20 pages business plan and try to think of every single thing along the way. But in the end, it's neither nor. It's really just about doing something, and in the end, the idea always adjusts. And in my case, for example, I mean, you can see that we had a very ugly logo until 2018, and only then changed it actually to the tree. Or in 2016, we didn't plant a tree for every product. we had the tree products and we had the functional products. And these were things that we then changed along the way, and I could tell you many more things about that. Another thing that is also specifically for Switzerland is that you should ignore people telling you do something normal first, or in Swiss German, mach etwas recht, oder mach etwas Gescheites zuerst. That's something I heard a lot when I was thinking of doing NIKIN full-time or starting it. And it's kind of a view of many risk-averse people that we have. And this demoted me a little bit in the beginning. Therefore, I think you should definitely ignore that. Second thing is, and it goes a little bit hand in hand, is it sounds a bit cliche, but ignore haters. When I started it, many people belittled me, made fun of me. For example, also when I had this gym bag, this NIKIN gym bag, people were calling me the Säckli Nicholas, the gym bag Nicholas, and that didn't feel that great, to be honest. But it's just the way how people work, and that's something you should really like get fast to a point where you can really stand above that and ignore it. One more thing that I also learned is that failing is super great if you learn from your fails fast. It's something that also many founders are afraid of the fact of failing or doing something wrong. But what I learned is that us just failing, but then adapting fast was actually the key to being fast in general. And here, for example, one small example of us launching a towel with a small pocket inside where you could hide things. And the problem was about the product that when you went to the local body, swimming pool, or wherever, you put the towel onto the grass or onto the sand or whatever, and you kind of ripped away all of the stuff, like leaves were attached to it and so on. And many customers told us that after one time using, they couldn't use it anymore. And it was a complete disaster. However, we by that learned that we have to pay more attention to material. We still sold them, got feedback from customers and so on, got the money, some we had to give it back and so on. And this actually made us stronger in the end, despite actually having a horrible product with this specific thing. One more thing is that I also learned is that they have to be extremely flexible, really, really flexible. And for that, maybe a small example is this picture. I mean, on this picture, you see, one of my main working places in the beginning of NIKIN. It's a place where the customer service, because when you found something and you don't do it, let's say full-time from the very beginning on, you have to use every single minute that you have. And the few minutes I had on the toilet, I used to reply to customer requests like, okay, you send the product back, I send you a new one, here's your invoice, and so on and so on. Or also every 5 minutes that I had in a bus, I used to reply to 1 or 2 emails. It's super intense, but this flexibility also in other aspects or other contexts, you really need to have in order to make it working. Or another example, we did a lot of meetings in bars in the beginning because we did not have an office. And while it might seem fun to be drinking beers and talking about business and so on, after the 20th meeting in a bar, it really sucks, to be honest. But these are the things that we had to do. And it's simple stuff, but be flexible or otherwise you'll have a problem at some point. Now, this is already my last learning. It's also a super simple one, but it's basically read the best book in the world. The best book, in my opinion, is Google. As stupid as it might sound, I get so many requests from people on LinkedIn or in other places asking me, how do I do Facebook ads? How do I find, I don't know, sustainable materials? How do I find a supplier? How to do this or that? But what most people really underestimate is that for every single problem or every single thing you want to do, there has already been someone on the internet writing about it. Therefore, if you really have a problem, first go on Google and check it out. There's thousands of things of many people that have a lot of interesting content. And if you're unsure, then okay, then go on LinkedIn and ask the people. And also there, many, many, many people will be super open to help you. So to summarize it, I truly love being an entrepreneur. It's a super amazing thing. I work way more, I earn way less, but it's super fun. And the most important thing to tell you is to just do it. There's too many people afraid of it. But if you're one of the people also in here in this room that just does it, you're already ahead of 99% of all the other potential entrepreneurs. And so that's a little bit of a hippie message. Just do it. But truly, I really believe in that. And if you want to do something, just start. That's it. Please follow me on LinkedIn. And if you want to buy something from NIKIN, here's a small code, InnoSwiss20. You'll get 20%. And yeah, would be happy to connect with you after this presentation. Thank you very much. So.
Thank you very much, Nicholas. That was really inspiring, and I think just do it is exactly the right message to aspiring entrepreneurs.
Thank you.
I see we already have some questions in the chat for you, but we will do the Q&A after our next keynote speaker, Céline. She's from the co-founder of CASUS, which is a legal tech startup, and CASUS is also a spin-off of the University of Zurich. So Céline, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Hi everyone, thanks for having me. Thanks for the introduction, Eliane. So today I would like to share with you 5 slides with 5 questions and also insights and inputs from my startup story so far. So the first one, where do I meet the right people or the right co-founders? In my case, that was actually quite a big coincidence. So my 2 co-founders, Fabian and Florian, and I met 10 years ago in this very room in the famous Gummibärli-Saal at the University of Zurich. And it was on our freshman's day of our bachelor studies in law. And over time, we then grew to friends. And in the end, after 8 years, we decided to found our startup CASUS together. So that was really a coincidence. If you don't meet your co-founders in the lecture hall, and if you're currently looking for some of them, I strongly suggest that you talk early with them about your values and your visions for the startup. So I think these kind of core values and your vision for your startup is something which glues you really together through all the highs and lows of the startup trip. But it might also drive you apart over time. So having a really strong foundation of your core values is so important. And maybe at the beginning that's also difficult for yourself to kind of know your core values and know where your startup should go, in your opinion. But it's important to ask yourself these questions first and then also discuss them with your potential co-founders. So for example, as I said, what is your vision for your startup? What is your understanding of leadership and hierarchy? Where do you see yourself and the company in 5 years? Do you want external investors like we did, or rather stay independent and bootstrap the startup like Nicholas did? So there are different ways of doing that. Also, do you plan to do an exit with your startup, or do you want to keep the company and build it up like Nicholas does? So these are just different ideas of how the startup should grow or how you would like to work together with each other. And just make sure that you talk early about that. What's the right timing for starting your own business, and is there even any right timing? So I'd say in terms of where you stand in your life, there's no real right timing. So you might be during your studies when you start your startup, as I did. It might be after your bachelor's, after your master's, or even maybe you're a 40-year-old woman who's fed up with a corporate career and now wants to do her own thing. So that might be a perfect entry point as well. I think it's more important that the right time is whenever you know why you're doing something. So I'd like to quote here Simon Sinek. He's a US American and British author and business consultant, and he has written a book called Start With Why. And in there he says, people don't buy what you do, but they buy why you do it. Very few people or companies can clearly say why they do what they do. By why, I mean their purpose, cause, or belief. Why does your business exist? Why do you get out of bed every morning, and why should anyone care? So in our case at CASUS, it was our common understanding that we want that everyone should get access to law at an affordable price. So we want to make that access more accessible, more open to everyone with the help of technology. How do you actually start a startup? My suggestion here is always start as small as possible. So we are talking here about prototypes and MVPs. So MVP means minimum viable product. So it's kind of your smallest part of your product or your service where you can start building it. And this small part should then already have some value on the market, and some customers might be willing to pay for it. So focus on the most important part of your product, build this part. then iterate and test it with potential clients to get feedback and to make sure that you're really building something for a real market, which is market value. And then to refine the whole product and start building again on top of it. So you're kind of building the product like an onion, which grows from the inside out. What you see here on the slide, this is one part of our clickable prototype. So at the beginning, we did the user testings only with this prototype. So you see the different pages which are linked to each other in our app. And we didn't have any backend at all. So it was really just a front end where you could click on it and we gathered the first feedback and then improved the app over time before we start building it. So to sum it up, start small and also work closely together with your potential clients. How does a day of a founder look like? And what about work-life balance? So personally, I'd say forget about work-life balance. I see my life just as life itself and not split up between work and life. And CASUS just grew to a very big part of my life over the last year. So I just wanted to give you a little overview of a typical week here, because sometimes people are asking me, what are you actually doing? Even my parents or my sister. So I'm mainly responsible in our startup for the technology part and the product development part, but I'm also involved in some business decisions, of course. So the green parts are calls, team calls with the Zurich team about marketing, sales, and then the weekly catch-up call. The blue parts, the dark blue and light blue ones, are my interactions and communication with the development team, which we're having in Serbia. And so I'm in daily exchange with them. We do additional calls if necessary. We do deployment calls where we deploy the app. And in the meantime, the red ones, I write user stories and prepare our sprint backlog. So we are working with Scrum, that's a software project management tool or concept. And we plan weekly sprints where I write the user stories about the core features which we are developing. The yellow ones are Q&A, so that's quality assurance. That's testing the app, testing all the new features, making sure that everything works. But there also a lot of feedback comes from the team and the test users, of course. Then the purple ones are user testings. So we are doing them on a regular basis, gathering feedback and analyzing the user feedback. And then, as I said, going through the cycle, testing and iterating it and building upon the core features. All the time I'm checking my emails, of course. I'm in constant communication through Slack with our developers and the rest of the team. So personally, I'd say the last year or the first year now at CASUS was quite intense. So it's quite a lot of work, and it also has a lot to do with your mind. You know, it was really difficult for me to switch my mind off in the evenings and not thinking about my baby anymore, or during the weekends sometimes as well. So, but I'd say it's also really important that you still get some time for yourself and that you spend some time on stuff beyond just your startup. So if you're thinking about founding a startup, prepare yourself for quite a lot of work, but it's also really totally worth it, because I love being independent. I love working on the things whenever I want to work on them. So it's just a lot more freedom than I imagine it to be if you're in a corporate, for example. What is it like to be female in a male-dominated area? So that's a screenshot of our Christmas call last year, the whole team. You can see I'm one woman among a team of 8. That was never a problem or anything special to me, because I was already used to being one of the only women during my studies of computer science, so that was kind of used to it. And we just have an amazing team, so it was never any discussion about it. But I think, nevertheless, Erin Teague puts it nicely. So she's the head of product at YouTube, and she says being a woman on a team of all men means that you are going to have a unique voice. It's important to embrace that. And that's something Nicholas has mentioned, the learning curve. So I can totally agree on that. So the learning curve is just amazing when you're building up something on your own. That was one of my learning curves, to really finding my unique voice, also expressing it and learning how to stand up to my team and express my own opinion within the team. I think that's not only important for women, but of course also for men. And in general, just whenever you're a minority in a team, whatever minority it might be, I think then it's especially important that you embrace your unique voice. I'd like to finish with 4 key takeaways for you. So the first one is the book, which I've already mentioned, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. To be honest, I haven't read it myself yet. I just didn't have the time. But I've watched multiple YouTube videos by Simon Sinek, and he's just a great guy, and the book is really good as well. So I hope I will soon find the time to read it as well. Second one, another book which I've actually read, that's The Company of One by Paul Jarvis. He just questions the whole growth paradigm, which is very present within the startup community. So he says bigger isn't always better. I find it a very interesting new aspect or view on startups. Embrace your voice, especially as a woman. And lastly, the best way to complain is to make things. That's a quote of the Ignite talk by Tina Roth-Eisenberg. She's a Swiss designer who's living in New York, and she has created multiple projects and has founded multiple startups or companies. And I just find her very inspiring because she just does it, as Nicholas said, just do it, try it out. And I think this is especially motivational for us women to have kind of such people where we can look up to or get inspired by. Because personally, I'd say we still have too few female founders or co-founders in the Swiss startup scene. So it's only around 20%, and in the technology sector, even down to 10%. And I'd really be so happy if we could change that. And this change also lies within you all who are listening to me. So I especially encourage women, whenever you think you might want to be entrepreneurial or found your own company, just do it. And whenever you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to have a chat with you if I can be of any help. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Céline, for this great speech. There were some really interesting insights, and I'm sure that early stage founders or becoming founders could take some takeaways of yours.
If these 2 stories inspired you to become an entrepreneur yourself, or you already have a business idea in mind, we invite you to visit the website of Startup Campus. Startup Campus is conducting the InnoSwiss startup training courses and events from Module 1, Business Ideas events, up to Module 4, Business Growth for Social Entrepreneur courses. If you want to hear more from other founders, we invite you to visit and register for the upcoming events. For example, the Startup Story Special Edition event on April the 21st, focusing on female founders. Again, registration is for free.